President Reagan's legacy, I do not ask about a nominee's personal opinions. What matters is not a judge's political views, but whether they can set aside those views to do what the law and the Constitution require. I am pleased to say that I have found, without doubt, such a person. Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court.
So last night was the big night. We had our primetime announcement. President Trump's giving us the name of Brett Kavanaugh as his choice to fill the seat vacated by Kennedy when it comes to the Supreme Court, that ninth seat. President Trump's second seat that he gets to appoint. Now, I'm going to play for you here a couple of reactions to this appointment. Here's Chuck Schumer.
President Trump, with the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh, has fulfilled or is fulfilling two of his campaign promises. First, to undo women's reproductive freedom. Second, to undo ACA. And so I will oppose him with everything I've got.
All right. Well, Schumer, you don't have a majority. So, and then we have Senator Warren.
I don't know him personally from Harvard. What I know him from are his opinions that he's written. And I know him from the fact that he appears on the list that the Federalist Society put together of people who will overturn Roe versus Wade. You know, that's how we know Brett Kavanaugh. That's the principal way.
And then also never a disappointment, and I mean that facetiously, Cory Booker.
Well, first of all, I have no doubt that this president, who seems to be very concerned about himself, didn't see that as a shining pearl within the picks that he had and the criteria that he looked at. But I've been saying emphatically before this, and now I will be saying with even stronger voice, that we as United States Senate, forget partisanship or what have you, if a respect for the Constitution, to avoid a constitutional crisis, we cannot let this confirmation process go forward.
A constitutional crisis? What news story did I miss? It's as though there is an alternative world out there that I have not yet seen. Oh, it's on MSNBC. It's because I don't watch it. That's right. Joining us in studio now, so great to have Brenda Talent in. Thank you for coming in from the Show Me Institute.
Great to be here, Annie.
So Missouri has a really huge opportunity to show me and show the country. And when I say show me, I'm talking about us folks over here in Illinois who don't have a say in this election when it comes to Senate seats, because we have the likes of Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth. Claire McCaskill, her seat is coming up here, and she is not expressing any support so far for Kavanaugh. He seems to be an adequate judge. He seems to be a good nomination. What do you think about it? What does the Show Me Institute have to say?
Well, obviously, we don't get involved in the politics of it, but from the policy standpoint of it, you know, Judge Kavanaugh has shown himself to be someone who actually looks at the statute, looks at the Constitution, and construes laws in light of whether they're constitutional or not, which is very important to us because of obviously we want our laws, first of all, to protect our liberties, not encroach upon them unconstitutionally. And in addition, we want a judge who's going to give us the rule of law. In other words, you can figure out what they're going to do because they're reading the law, applying it, interpreting it. They're not creating it.
Absolutely. Well, the list that the president put together with the Federalist Society seemed to be respected by people who like the Constitution and like that idea of keeping the power in the Constitution with the people. And you know, the other side of the aisle right now is talking about a constitutional crisis. Can you put your finger on where that's coming from?
I would say what we're seeing is politics at its worst, really. You know, people have their talking points. That's what we're constantly being bombarded by. And it depends upon what it is you want. You know, the ends justify the means, if you will. And really, as Americans, we need to step back. And the real question is, does Judge Kavanaugh have the temperament? Is he learned? Is he measured in how he conducts himself? Does he have good character? Because if he does, he's qualified for the job. And that's what we ought to be focusing on. And I think that, you know, and we've talked about this before. He's going to go around, he's going to meet the senators, and then we're going to have the confirmation hearings, right? And at that point, all Americans will be introduced to Judge Kavanaugh. We'll hear how he answers the questions. We'll hear how he thinks about the issues and how he speaks. And we can make a judge for ourselves. We really don't have to listen to these sound bites in order to determine what side we're going to fall on.
Yeah. So when it comes to the judges that are on the court right now, we've got 4 that have been appointed by Democrat presidents, and we have 5 that were appointed by Republicans. And Kennedy, who is the one who's being replaced, falls very in the center. Kavanaugh seems to be on the more conservative side of this, of the balance of the court. What does that mean for the United States going forward, with the Supreme Court being in the hands of now a Kavanaugh as the 9th seat?
Well, it's potentially transformational in the sense that we will have a Supreme Court that really views their role as measuring statutes against our Constitution, about not allowing the unlawful delegation of authority to regulatory bodies. Justices who really respect states' rights, where we're the laboratory of democracy, right? And who see that that's an important balance to have. And another way to characterize it, one of the people in our office, we were talking about it, used this word, and I love this word. We may have a Supreme Court that is more humble in how they view their role vis-a-vis the American people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Brenda, we know that the Republicans have a majority, but it is a razor-thin majority, particularly with John McCain out of commission, dealing with his health issues. Susan Collins, Murkowski, even Rand Paul is another one that may or may not, always go along with the Republican majority. We all know it's going to be a circus. We all know it's going to be a battle. Do you think that Judge Kavanaugh is going to have a problem getting confirmed? Or do you think at the end they coalesce and come together behind him?
So this is Brenda Talent's assessment of this? Okay.
Just your opinion.
Just my opinion is that unless he's got a skeleton in the closet, which I hope people have vetted him adequately, so there is none, I would think he would be confirmed. And I think that because if you look at what he's done with his career, he's respected academically. He's respected by other judges across the board. This is a person who's eminently qualified to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. And politics aside, he should be confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're hearing a lot about the vetting of these individual names before we had a specific nominee. And also the big thing that came out of this list was the reaction to Roe v. Wade and women's rights. And I'm hearing a lot of people on the conservative side, the constitutionalist side, say you can't look at how you anticipate somebody would rule on something. It's case by case. How do you see when you're observing this, from the standpoint of observing government, of the court structure, and how the process is supposed to work? What's your reaction when people are saying it doesn't even have to be Roe v. Wade? It could be a gun rights issue. It could be a gay rights issue. It could be any issue that is out there. But this worry about the way they will rule when said court case comes to their decision making.
I would worry about appointing someone to the court if they were willing to say how they would rule. A judge is supposed to look at the case that's in front of them based upon the facts in front of them. And we know from case to case that can change. So it would really be inappropriate to say, this is how I would rule. I'm not a big fan of litmus tests because, to some extent, if you're willing to do that and that is not a judicial temperament, you can get on the court and then do whatever you want to do. No, I really think you look at the history of the individual and their conduct. And what you see in Judge Kavanaugh is someone who clearly knows what the role of a judge is, who exercises self-discipline in that role. And that should give us all a great deal of comfort.
Well, and what do you think about the way that this has been really, no pun intended, trumped up when it comes to the Roe v. Wade issue specifically? But they've expanded it out, trying to make it seem like it's about a specific political agenda. There's this suggestion that it's almost like the Supreme Court is king, and this person is going to come on, and now there's going to be a specific majority, and they're going to be able to make all these rulings. Is that how it works?
That's not how it should work. There are some people who obviously, when it's their agenda at issue, that's how they want it to work. But that's not how it's supposed to work. Laws are supposed to be measured against our Constitution. We look at the statute, we look at the context in which the Constitution was enacted, and we look at the authority or the legislative actions that have been taken. Look, a number of these issues really should be debated in the political arena, not at the court. We shouldn't have supreme legislators at the U.S. Supreme Court. We need interpreters of our law. And again, when I hear all of this, I do wonder how much people are just saying, this is so much noise just coming at me. And I don't care whether you're left or right. There are so many talking points and, there are doomsday scenarios that you got to say, everybody cool it.
Chill out. Yeah, no kidding. We bought for Disney World. Going back to everything is Disney. I said to Tony last night, I go, if I come on the show tomorrow and announce Mickey Mouse as the new Supreme Court nominee, just wheel me out, take over, and go from there. But yeah, we bought these cooling towels that are supposed to be able to keep you from overheating, and it's we need to pass these out to everybody at these protests. The things that we were this gathering of people that we saw
Can they
last
be MAGA
night.
Cooling towels?
Yeah, no.
Well,
no, that wouldn't work.
I think it's always a legitimate question to ask. How is it you can have talking points where you basically have a fill in the blank and whatever the name is, you throw it in
Which
there?
they had all ready to go yesterday. And it didn't matter who the person was going to be. They were already written.
Yeah, I was watching I wanted to listen. I wanted to listen to these protests. They were on Facebook Lives from various news sources. And there was so much yelling and chanting and noise. They had the senators that you would want to hear from your party, like the Bernie Sanders, the Christian Gillibrands. I think Cory Booker was up there, among others, up there to react. And you couldn't hear anything that they were saying. And to me, I'm like, this is exactly the Democratic Party right now, because there's some messages that are trying to get out, but the noise is so great right now. And the truth of the matter is that Brett Kavanaugh seems to be a pretty good choice for a Supreme Court justice. And in a true constitutionalist mentality, what we want, and Tony, you're going to love this, keep it as close to states' rights as we possibly can.
Yeah,
because
amen.
What's good for the Republicans and the Democrats in Missouri is different than what the folks in New York and California and Illinois, even just one river over, and that's what the Show Me Institute is invested in, is taking care of the taxpayers, the voters in the state of Missouri, and a constitutionalist on the Supreme Court is good for that.
Well, not only that, he does respect the separation of powers. And here's what I would say to the individuals who are getting so worked up about this. Guess what? If the Supreme Court doesn't handle an issue that you care about, there is a process by which you can get handled. It's called the legislative, the political process. That's the arena in which you can have a voice. And if you're concerned about that, if you're hysterical, well, oh my gosh, the court's going to do, you know what? Then you're saying you're concerned about the American people, because the American people ultimately can decide that political process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to continue to watch the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org, and people can... There's such a wealth of information here for taxpayers in the state of Missouri, for people who are looking at issues that might that they might want to weigh in on, talk to a legislator. Like, you can actually be active in your own political process through what the Show Me Institute has to offer you.
Well, we hope we offer the resources for you to be well informed. So visit our site, showmeinstitute.org, and be informed.
Brenda, before you go,